If you are currently leveling up your Django and Postgres skills with this tutorial, you might like to know that this tutorial is part of a whole playlist where you will learn how to, with Django and Postgres, create database level constraints and triggers. If you like this playlist and you would like to learn more about Django ORM, then do check out our Django ORM Mastery course on Udemy. Links to the playlist and course can be found in the video description. Now, before we get into the main content of this module, I wanted to spend a few moments organizing the project codebase. Now, we probably don't need to dwell on this too much, but by periodically reviewing our Django project, we can start to think about separate folders for Django code and maybe other components like Docker Compose, virtual environments, and configurations files in our Django project, which will ultimately help us maintain a clean, organized, and manageable code base. So this is firmly placed under the separation of concerns heading. Here, I'm going to simply create a new folder and separate the application logic with the infrastructure code or setup code. So let's go ahead and create a new folder for our Django inventory code base. And now it's just a simple case of selecting the folders, files related to the project. So we're going to add the tests in there for now and anything related to the test. We aren't going to need our database file anymore. I'm going to remove that. We're moving to Postgres database and we'll move the manage.py and pytest ini inside of this folder. So now we have a separation of concerns. We have all the Django related application logic, application code base inside of this folder, and everything else now is on the root. So I've added this tutorial in because I don't feel as though anyone is really talking about it. We seem to have, or there is this general perception, in my opinion, that you have a code base setup and that's the setup that you're going to be utilizing throughout the whole project, which is not always going to be the case, depending on who's working on the project, the scale of the project, the type of project. That can all determine how your project is structured. So by organizing our Django project with separate folders like we've done here, application code, eventually maybe Docker files, virtual environments, and other configuration, we hopefully enhance our project's clarity, maintainability, and ease of deployment eventually. Now, what is probably very important is for us to just familiarize ourselves now with the fact that we have now moved all of our code base, including the manage.py file, inside of our new project folder, this Django inventory folder. Now, because of that, we need to have a little bit of knowledge about the terminal and how the terminal works. So when we open up the terminal opens up to the root folder that you're currently viewing here in your project. Now, of course, if we want to run manage.py and actually run our project, then of course we're going to need to make sure that we identify where that file is. And now, of course, it's in the Django inventory folder. So in order to move into that, or one way of working is to move into that folder, change directory, cd, in the terminal here, and then we can just, I typed in the first letters of the folder and then press tab to finish that off, and I can move into that folder. So now when I type ls to list all of the files inside of that folder, you can now see I'm inside, working inside from the terminal in the Django inventory folder. So from here I can run manage.py and run the server. And there we go. So the server is working okay. So indicating that I have moved all the correct files over. So let's just run pytest from here. So that should run all the tests. So once you have reconfigured your project folder structure, it's always worth checking to make sure that you have moved everything correctly and there isn't any other settings that you need to change to indicate the fact that you've moved code.